minister. Li Peng, it said, "You will never find any peace." That one was written in blood.
Simon Long. BBC Television's correspondent in Peking, Kate Adie, has been out of her troops formed up on the north side of the square while students clustered round
20 abreast towards students. They crushed all the tents, everything in their way, and it is said that some people were still in them. The students were meanwhile making a slow retreat to the south, tears streaming down their faces, their banners flying. Some of the women had to be dragged away by their colleagues. They did not wish to leave. Suddenly a contingent of troops gained the top tier of the monument and drove the students forward. There was confusion. Many students were trampled and left for dead. There were some Chinese Red Cross workers still in the square. They tried to get to those students and they were beaten back by the troops. Some of them were left there. As the students drew level with the Mao Zedong mausoleum at the south of the square, the tank stopped. In front of the students there were paratroopers. But it would seem that several thousand students eventually were allowed to leave at the south of the square, and they may have got away. But there are reports of violence.
Kate Adie with an eyewitness account of overnight events in Peking. Millions of Iranians have been mourning the death of Ayatollah Khomeini in the streets and in the mosques, often in scenes of immense grief and near frenzy. Thousands of people crowded into the North Tehran suburb where the Ayatollah's body is being kept until burial tomorrow. So many of them that Tehran radio appealed to them to keep away. As our Middle East correspondent Tim Llewellyn reports, the national mood was such that, for the moment anyway, only the remaining members of the leadership were worrying about the succession of the Ayatollah.
For today and tomorrow, grief is all. Iran radio has played a constant relay of Quranic verses and funereal music, interspersed with the sounds of people and preachers bemoaning the death of the man they call the Imam.
Ireland's learning rapidly on 203. And that's the sports news. Mike Costello, thank you very much. And now we're going back to China with Simon Long on the line. Simon, what is the latest now? Is Tiananmen Square completely cleared now? Are you there, Simon?
I'm here, yes.
Yes. Can you tell me what the latest is in China, in Tiananmen Square at the moment? Is the square cleared of students and workers?
It has been. It's now occupied by the army. They're there in formation. Large numbers of tanks, armored personnel carriers, troop trucks have moved through the night. They have been firing on the protesters, blocking their way, and they have, through the night, let them go. It seems it might have taken them longer than they thought, because television news just now announced in what seems to be a pre-recorded message that the square was cleared at 5. But in fact, at 5 there were still quite a number of protesters outside the hotel where I'm staying.
Do you know what the protesters intend to do now? I mean, will they accept the situation, or do you think they'll go on fighting?
That's far too early to say. The mood on the streets last night before the troops arrived was extremely defiant, which would suggest that this might yet be another, and much the most serious, obviously, of the series of provocations associated the government has given the protesters, and might inspire them to stage a fresh demonstration if they can. So that said, what has happened has been absolutely chilling in its ruthlessness. Nobody knows how many people have died overnight, and a lot of people will be very, very scared.
Scared, and others, you would say, will be defiant. Could China be on the verge of civil war?
There must be that possibility. There was some speculation through the night when troops had arrived from north and western Peking, but not from the east, where they had stayed on, where they had, as before, been stopped by peaceful townspeople and seemed to be less intent on reaching the square than the other groups, that perhaps the army was split. However, that column did indeed turn up somewhat later, so there's no real sign that the army is split yet.
Do you think it's Li Peng against the people, or is he likely to have a certain amount of support in the country?
I haven't found any popular support for Li Peng at all. It's partly a personal thing. He seems to have managed to make